This is K-Rockcast, the podcast where music and perspectives collide.
I'm Anne, a music lover who's the ultimate fan.
And I'm Kelly, a professional musician. Join us as we dive into the world of the Rose and other Korean and Asian rock bands.
Sometimes we'll agree, sometimes we'll wildly disagree, but what's guaranteed is a passionate, hilarious, and unfiltered conversation about the music that unites us and the bands that inspire us. Everybody, we're back. Kelly, a lot has kind of been going down the last 3 or 4 days. A listener, we are recording on what day is it? May 10th. We got a lot of exciting news kind of starting on May 6th into May 7th, 8th. But then some of that exciting news ended up taking a turn, Kelly. We want to spend our hot takes kind of going through that. And, I had to kind of giggle because I always go back and listen to our episodes after they come out. So I listened to the one that just came out on Thursday of this week, and I was laughing at us because all that shit was literally going down on Thursday. And I say in the hot takes, well, there's nothing happening with the Rose.
It's really boring at the moment. God.
I know, I was laughing at myself. I was like, oh, Anne and Kelly, you guys had no idea when you were recording this episode what would be happening the day it came out.
No.
All right, listeners. So we're going to spend our hot takes kind of diving into everything that's kind of been going on between today, May 10th, and May 6th. So let's start back at May 6th. So we got something exciting, Kelly. These new TikTok videos came out on May 6th from the Rose. I loved it because they did two of them. One, they were playing a snippet of Back to Me, and the second one, they were playing a snippet of All Time Low's Dear Maria, Count Me In. And they had these painted instruments.
Yeah.
And they're in the Windfall office, and the way it was filmed was so cool. And I loved it. What do you think of these TikTok videos?
They were great. They were just raw and enjoyable, and you can tell the guys were actually enjoying doing them, which I think made it even better. I love the little nod back to Sour and the painted instruments and things like that. So that is a great thing.
Yeah.
But no, it was really cool to hear them do Back to Me and then also do Dear Maria, Count Me In, which I absolutely love as a track anyway. But obviously it's the sort of cover idea, which is currently doing the rounds on TikTok. I just thought it was great.
Like what you're saying about the callback to Sour, because Sammy's hair is sour hair. It's what his hair was like during the Sour video.
No, that's called getting out the shower and can't be asked to do anything with it. That's what that's called.
But he's let it grow really long. Him and Hajun both have this kind of long, shaggy haircut. I like what you said. It's raw. It was just them jamming in the office with these cool painted guitars. And what I loved is we had a post on April 18th on the Rosarium by Hajun where he was painting the drum kit.
Yeah.
Remember that?
Yeah. But if you actually notice in that photograph at the back, there is the guitars piled up without all of the hardware on for painting as well. So he'd obviously primed them before he let the arts class loose with the wax crayons.
I just loved it. I just thought it was really cool. I feel like it just kind of revived fans. It gave us this newfound excitement, and everybody was reposting it all across social media and kind of talking about it. I mean, and I can't help but call this out, Kelly. We did on K-Rockcast on May 1st or May 2nd put out a picture of the guys from episode 5 of Photosynthesis with Dear Maria, Count Me In as the song on it.
Yeah, but you do know it's
just saying.
You do know it's one of his go-to songs because it's possibly one of the only songs he remembers the chords for.
But I'm just saying, of all the songs, of all the covers they could have done.
Yeah.
I'm just saying.
It's the one with the same energy and the same intensity. And I think that's what they were trying to do with those. It was that raw punk energy that they were trying to get across. And that's why they picked those two songs, I think.
Punk energy. I liked I liked
Not
that.
that
And you know, it just
they're
I'm not
not that
gonna
they're
let
really punk, to be perfectly honest, but I'll give it them for
No,
once.
they're not, but it had that
They're pop
you know what?
punk. They're pop
I
punk.
it Pop punk, yeah. It took me
Mm.
back, and I'm gonna put this out here, okay? Because, Kelly, I don't mind when I'm wrong. I'm wrong a lot, so and I will always wholeheartedly say it, but I'm gonna put it out here
Never!
in case in case I'm right. When I heard, especially the Dear Maria Count Me In, it took me back to the song that they previewed for us in the 7th
Mm.
anniversary Rosarium live stream that had that same early 2000s pop punk sound to it. And Sammy said, "Oh, this could be like summer single next year. We don't know
Yeah,
when it'll come out." And what did I say to you? I was like, watch them fucking just drop that single out of nowhere. It doesn't need to even be on an album. It's just
yeah.
like drop it in the summer.
I think it might drop a bit later,
I could see that.
but
I
we'll
I
see.
don't know. I feel like I could see them just dropping that this summer. We'll see. We'll see if
Yeah,
I'm right or
they've
wrong.
got schnizzle to do this summer, but it might sneak in afterwards.
Mm, I don't know. That's what it totally made me think of. Well, that was fun. Then what we had on May 6th was we had the presale on the Roses website. And
The
this
proper
was lovely
pre-sale.
because we
The proper pre-sale.
yeah, the real presale, the proper one.
The
We got
proper
to see
one.
the full album artwork. We got to see concept photos, what will be the photo
Mhm.
cards. I just like this look. It's very simple. It's very stripped down, just white tees, jeans, bare feet. What's your thought on kind of the concept photos?
It's just 90s though, isn't it? That's what it is. It's
Oh,
very
yeah.
much 90s. I mean, there's a Calvin Klein revival at the moment anyway. I'm 100% sure
Right.
most of you will have seen some of these adverts. Um, and they're just harking back to the 90s sort of aesthetic anyway. And that's very much what that was. That was blue jeans, white vest, white t-shirt. Thank God they stopped at that. That's all I'm saying.
Mhm.
Um, but yeah, I mean, it's a great look and it's a classic look. It's a very classic rock look. So they got away with it perfectly well.
I just really liked this whole stripped down, simple, like no not like well, I mean, of course they always have makeup on, but like not like makeup, not like all this fancy hair, you know.
No, it's a very
I liked
stripped back
it.
look and it's a very masculine look as well. There's no frills with it as such, which is quite nice. It goes back to the rebranding, it goes back to the fact that they're trying to open up their audience again. And the fact that they are trying to go
Mhm.
for the middle road. And I mean, this is a conversation I've had with you, and I can't remember if we've actually mentioned it on the podcast, but I know we've definitely had this conversation. I mean, I adore 30 Seconds to Mars. I heard The Kill and fell in love with them. And when I first started to get into them, their audience was probably 95% women, very much like the Roses audience. And then I saw them last year thinking, oh God, it's just going to be an arena full of screaming women again. Walked in, it was an arena full of screaming men. Literally, the audience was 80% men, 20% women. And I think, to be perfectly honest, most of the women had been dragged. I mean, we were stood
Yeah.
there next to literally like a gang of 20 guys singing their heads off. And I was just like, okay, fair enough, you know. And they'd managed to turn their audience around, not by doing much, to be perfectly honest.
Mhm.
They'd not completely rebranded themselves. They just sort of opened it up a bit more. And it's like I've said to you, the problem with the Rose is they were marketed to start with as a K-pop band. They were
Yeah.
pushed down this idol route by their label, by their agency, and it's like a dead end. And they couldn't really back out of it as such. And to me, they've just been an indie rock band. That's all they are. They're an or as they describe themselves, an alt pop band. And they've not been able to escape that earlier label. And I think this is a desperate attempt to do that and to brand themselves. Because I must admit, I mean, it must be hard knowing that that's your audience, especially if you're not a boy band and you are marketed as being a boy band. If you're marketed as being a boy band, fair enough, that's what you are. but you want that
Mhm.
inclusivity, and their music is about inclusivity, so why it hasn't got a wider spread across the sexes, I don't know. But I think that's what they're trying to move towards.
Yeah, that point you made with 30 Seconds to Mars, I think is a great one, and I think we've continued to say that we're noticing, all the
Yeah.
way back, the first time you and I talked about it was the episode in the hot takes where we had the teaser for
Yeah.
the light stick. They literally blew up the black rose. Did
Yeah.
nobody, like, pick up on that?
No.
Nobody pick up on that.
No,
Like,
apparently not. Apparently
that
not.
time is over,
Yeah.
right? Like, that time is over, and I think it's smart of them. I think they need to. I
Yeah,
feel like you've said
they've
this before.
they've
They
got to
they
develop
need
their
to
audience.
position themselves
Yeah, because 'cause they're
not
not
as
gonna
a Korean rock band, but
an
as a rock band
international
that
rock
happens to be
band.
from Korea.
Yeah, that's it. It doesn't matter where you're from.
Yeah,
You're a rock band, you're a rock band. Doesn't matter it doesn't matter
right.
what language you
I mean,
sing.
because the reality is, I'll say this in a minute when we talk about the song snippets in Soom, I had some high hopes maybe that would be an all Korean song, but the little bit of
No,
lyrics we got, he's singing in English. So the reality is we have not had like much Korean lyrics out of them since the Heel album and
yeah,
not even, that was probably half and half. So they're not even leaning into Korean lyrics anymore.
no, no.
So what makes them K-pop? What makes them K-rock? Just because they're Korean?
Blood.
So yeah, they need to be embracing that and
Mm,
diversifying themselves more.
yeah,
And I think we're gonna
definitely.
see that going forward, which is good,
Yeah,
which is
yeah, I
good.
think they will as
The
well.
other thing I really liked, I liked that we got s well, you and I had said, I think, on the release schedule, the marketing schedule did not include merch specifically. So I was wondering myself, like, is there merch coming out? But when they did have the presale, there are bundles and then you can buy the shirts and the hoodie.
Yeah,
I love this design of the
yeah.
faces. What's your thought
I
on
like
that?
it. It's very mu it's the Beatles. I mean, this it's a line drawing which is exceptionally similar to a Beatles piece of artwork that was done. I can't tell you who's meant to be bloody who on it, and I don't think they can, to be perfectly honest, either. But yeah, I think it's a great piece of artwork, and I love the line
I
underneath.
know,
I
so
think the line's lovely. I think it's a really nice callback to what has been and to what is coming.
yeah. Though I will admit this, we were wrong because we did learn in the live that part of some at least the cover artwork of the album
Yes.
was an actual artist, it wasn't Hajun. So I still think Hajun did some of the other smaller artwork, but
Yeah.
kudos to that artist that they collaborated with because it's beautiful. The
It,
colors are
yeah,
just
it's a really
gorgeous.
nice combination of colours. Yeah, definitely. Come on, we've got to be wrong
Mhm.
about something every now and again. Otherwise,
Yeah, I mean,
it sounds like we've
yeah, we
got
can't
inside
always be right about
information
everything.
otherwise, and we don't have inside
Exactly, and,
information, and I've not got a crystal
we
ball.
s right? I mean, it's already bad enough that people think we work for them. We don't need to keep,
I
like,
don't bloody work
reinforcing
for
this,
them.
like, myth that we are not their
I've got
PR.
enough shit to do myself, let alone work for them.
I know. Okay, then the second thing that we got was this beautiful video. It
Yes.
came across all their social media sites of a snippet of every one of the 7 songs. I just love how whoever's kind of thought of this concept for them, they made it look like a record player,
Do you
but
know
it was the
what?
CD.
I really,
Yeah.
really like whoever's done this sort of animated digital trailer work. So if you look
Yeah.
at the Roadstar trailer, they walk into a garage. Now the actual
Mhm.
CD vinyl and Dulux CD are stored in a garage when you walk in, and
Mm.
then you've got the colours, and then it opens up, and you get the world reveal, and then you get each of the sort of like, this is what the vinyl looks like, and everything else. I think it's so well done, and then of course you have this really lovely vinyl player, and I think that's such a sweet idea. It makes a difference. It's going back to tangible music instead of it being the traditional, "Oh,
Right.
look, it's a Spotify sort of screenshot type of thing. I really like that. I thought it was lovely, and honestly, whichever company's done it's done a stellar job on them. They really, really have. They're lovely. I like those little
Oh,
trailers.
I completely agree with you, and I'm even now connecting when you talked about how the Rose Star trailer took you into a garage. Think of
Mm,
photosynthesis. They've been
yeah,
hanging out in the
in the
garage.
garage.
It's all
Why
kind
did
of
I say
connected, right,
garage?
as we talk it
Garage!
through.
God, I'm hanging around
Garage,
with too many
sorry, the
Americans.
garage.
Garage, garage.
I had you
Not
saying
garage. It's
soccer
not garage music,
the
it's
other day.
garage.
Oh, too funny. Well, you had me using the term bloke, so,
Bloke.
uh,
Geezer.
it's only fair.
I can teach you some much worse words if you'd like me to.
The guys are old, we'll call them geezers.
They're definitely blokes, they're not
They're
geezers
blokes,
yet.
okay,
Yeah, there's no whippets or flat
okay.
caps, we've not got to
Um,
that point.
I'm coming back to brag about us here, Kelly, because
Go on, brag,
we
brag.
went through when they released the track list image, we went through every one of them and aligned them to the snippet that we thought it
I didn't.
matched
I
that
got
Sammy
one
played
wrong.
in his live stream.
I got one wrong.
You thought that that acoustic song was not a separate song, but I came in and saved us by saying it was, and I matched it to Ticket to the Sky, so I'm
Yeah.
going to say that literally we got all of them right
Yeah, okay, I'll
between
give
the
you
2
that
of
one.
us.
Yeah.
We literally got all of them right.
I mean, between the two of us, we've got a brain. I'm not sure if we've got one each, but between
Why
the
do
two
you
of
keep,
us, there's a
like
fully functioning one.
I feel like you continue to sell us short.
I
Alright,
look.
so we're
I
not
am
going to
I am the
spend
queen of self-deprecation. Any other bugger tries to pull me down, I will have your legs, but I will rip myself down all the time.
we won't spend a whole lot of time because please, listeners, we will do deep dives into the World album, believe us. So there's no
There's so
need
much
to
to
continue to
do.
talk through them. I will say, when I heard "Soom," "Breathe," wow, I feel like that one is sticking in my head. I love that one.
Now,
He
I've
says
spoke
something like "running back to you" or "coming back to you."
it's running back to you and coming back to you.
Running back to you, yeah.
Um, yeah, it's beautiful, and it's a hark back to obviously previous conversations that his character has had in other albums. Because I think that's kind of like how I like to sometimes see how Sammy writes. I think he writes as a character sometimes, and it's the story of that character
Mm,
and where that character is in its existence. Um,
mm,
Especially when he writes for the Rose. I mean, I've spoken to people and like yourself, very very taken with it. Me being me, yes, what I've heard so far of all the tracks have resonated, and there's things I've taken from them and I have absorbed. But me being me, I want to know where it's going. But I think that's just the musician thing in me. I want to know where it's moving to, where the story goes. I need that bit more, but that's just me.
yeah, I mean, I think we'll get that when we get the full album and we can kind of
I
just sit
don't
in
I
all of these
don't think there's
songs
gonna
and
be any breakdowns in the any sort of jazz sections or anything like that. I don't think we've got that. I don't think they've suddenly gone System of a Down on us. But yeah, I would like the dynamic to move slightly from what I've heard so far and see where it
mhm.
flows to. Whether it's a meandering river, which is kind of what it feels like at the moment. It kind of feels like it's meandering. But I want to know if that river moves out to the
Yeah.
sea, if it picks up current and
Mhm.
it evolves.
I think the other thing I noticed was when we heard a different part of Nebula than we've heard before. One, it was still Dojun singing. So
Yes.
I am surmising I wonder if this could be an all Dojun vocal song.
Yeah, I think it is, but saying that you can hear Sammy harmonizing in the background.
Mhm.
There are
But
layered vocals in there, which it's not Dojon's layered vocals. There is another voice in there as well.
yeah, be interesting though if he was lead throughout like this,
Yeah,
just with Sammy harmonizing in the
yeah.
background. And then the Pieces of My Soul snippet that
Mm.
Sammy sang in the photosynthesis episode was from this. I know the way he sang it very soulfully, so I thought it was gonna be from Slowly, but it was from this
Yeah,
song.
but actually the melody fits with this. So, actually, harking back to me saying there's another voice in there, actually, if you layer the 2 together, Dojon singing how he was, and if Sammy takes that sort of extended vocal harmony over the top, they will sit together very, very nicely, and it'll sound lovely. Whether or not they've done that, I don't know, because they don't tend to do, like, cross harmonies very often, so it'd be interesting to see if they do that.
Mhm. So I also wanted to point out, remember when we were talking about this cap that they're wearing? Obviously, Sammy's new emotional support hat. Um
Of which he's probably got 20 of them.
Yeah. Yeah,
Yeah,
of course he does, and wears
yeah.
just the same one over and over again. Just based on kinda what we heard, to me, it almost sounded a little bit like it's about death. So it could be metaphorical death, it could be physical death, death of a relationship, death of whatever. And then I was thinking about what was imaged on the cap, and it was scratched out. And then I got thinking, like, I wonder if that was, like, kind of a callback to maybe this song being about some lyrical death or metaphorical death. We'll have to see when we
Possibly,
hear the full song, like, what the
possibly. I
lyrics
mean, I am
are.
100% sure he's a goth at heart, to be perfectly
It's a
honest.
what?
He's a goth at heart.
He's a goth.
Yeah, he is at
Well,
heart, I think he is.
we will get into Wolf, and there's a lot going on in the Wolf
Totes a
album in
mosh,
terms of
darling. It's
lyrically.
totes a mosh.
Sammy is very emo. He's our emo boy.
Mhm. We're not saying anything about emo lyrics, thank you very much.
There's nothing wrong with that. I love it. Give it to me. I'm all for it. All right. So, those are the song snippets. Then we got the pleasure of a live stream on Instagram on May
I know,
7th,
I know.
which was a nice surprise.
It was a really nice surprise. Do you know why it was a nice surprise, Anne? 'Cause I was up a
Why?
tree when it happened. I was up a goddamn tree.
You were up a tree,
I was
which
literally
is so
6 foot
funny.
up a tree.
None of us are gonna ask why you're up this tree. We'll keep moving on from from that.
I was making a tree house. No, I wasn't. I was trimming some branches.
So
All
funny.
I can say
But
is
it just
thank God
felt
I'd not got
good.
a chainsaw.
Yeah. It felt good to see them all together, and just
Yeah.
in kind of reflecting, they had not been all together like that on a live stream since August 3rd of 2024.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, so it just felt good to see them and just their energy. You could tell they were super excited to
Yes. And
start
I
to preview more
And
the
that's the thing.
album.
Yeah, and I think that's the lovely thing. It's when you see the general excitement at what they're doing and what they're showing. I mean, it's like a kid at show and tell, and they brought in their best toy as such. And
Yeah.
I mean, this is one of the things we were sort of giggling about is the fact that you've got Sam running and going, look at this, and then you've got Tojo running around after going, Sam, put it down. Sam, get it out of your mouth.
Oh,
Stop
I
bothering
know.
the dog. Leave Sam, stop it, stop it.
I know Leo was in total, like, his just the lot he carries in life with his relationship with Sammy, like,
It's like on full
he
mum
was
mode.
so yeah, full, like, "Ooh, Sam," like, it just
Yeah.
Sammy just says
Sam,
stuff and talks
Sammy,
out his
stop
ass, like,
it.
yeah, like, Sammy just talks out his ass, and then Dojun just kinda cleans up afterwards,
I
so,
did think it was
it's
quite sweet, and he's like, "Can I show this?" And he's like, "You can show that." I was like, "Yay!"
I know.
The
Oh, yeah,
excitement
Dojun.
because it was approved that he could do something.
Can I just insert this? And it's like, Dojun, why are you wearing this cap from Rabbit to the Moon all the time now?
It's his new
I do not
support
approve
hat.
of this.
It's his new support hat.
I don't approve of this. It is wrecking me. I
He's
had whole zombie apocalypse fantasies about it. Stop it,
Well,
Dojun.
look,
Stop it.
we do not need your weird sus content again. Honestly, the amount of comments we've
No,
had about your dodgy fantasies.
he needs to stop wearing this cap, this,
No,
like,
you
whole
just
look
need
he
to
had
no,
going
you
on. I was
need to stop. There's nothing about him needing to stop. You need to stop. Weird woman. Weird.
Alright, back to the live. So, that's where we saw the artwork, and it was nice that that artist actually made them prints, or on canvas, excuse me, like canvases that
To be
they can hang
perfectly
up
honest,
around
that
their
looked like the
office and
original. No, that looked like the original. Because if you actually see it when it's sort of angled slightly, you could actually see the raised white paint that was used for the silhouettes and the world text. So they've obviously they've painted the background and then they've used an acrylic paint to do the quick sketch and the writing of world, which is
Yeah.
why it's so sort of boxy and juxy. It's in like a weird juxtaposition, the actual lettering, and that'll be why, because it's been poured from a height.
Yeah, it's very is like we said kinda just before, I think it's beautiful, and then Sammy opened up the album, and he showed us the "We Go as One," and we had
Yeah.
called that out when we saw that in the image on the shirt, in the track list image, and, he kinda talked about that.
This harks back obviously to what is the O in world? What is O?
Mhm.
Why is the O missing? Well, it's obviously one world, isn't it? That's what the whole message of the album is. It's one world, which is why the line is "We go as one" and why the O is missing.
Yeah. Yeah, I loved that, and he opened up the photo book, and he was showing all the photos, and I just love that he fangirls over the other members.
It is sweet
I
though.
think
Yeah.
that's I think that's so cute, like, when he called Leo, he's like, "Look at that cutie." I just think that's adorable. And why is Dojun in bed, like, covers over him in one of these photos? What is
I
going on with that?
Either he thought it was hilariously funny, or at the time he'd got like a cast on his ankle or something like that, and they were trying to hide it. I
I know,
don't
like,
know
what's
what it was.
the idea was it to put him, like, under total covers? Like,
Well, like as
what's
I
that as
said
a
to you,
picture? We wanna
I
see
wondered
him.
whether or not they'd only got 3 pair of blue jeans.
No, we have no pants for
I'm
times are
sorry, there are
tight.
no
We don't have
jeans
enough
for you.
pants. Leo, get in bed.
Please don't say we've got no pants for you. I've told you you're not allowed to use the term pants in
Oh,
reference to
sorry,
trousers.
trousers, sorry.
Trousers or jeans or whatever type of trousers they are, not pants.
I'm American,
Just
we
don't do
say
pants.
pants.
Yeah, I know you do. I'm not gonna say what was gonna go through my head. I'm gonna leave that there. But pants in the
Alright,
UK
then
are very different things. The pants relates to pantaloons, and pantaloons were underwear.
yes,
There
yes.
you go. So it's not us, it's you
Alright,
lot bastardizing the
moving
language
on.
again. Moving swiftly on.
Moving swiftly on. So then they showed off the painted instruments. I'm really loving this kinda, like, concept of the painted instruments. It was kind of fun. They went around to everybody's instrument, just seeing what was on there. Um, and so I thought it was interesting to see, like, what each of them decided to put on their instrument. Sammy had the title of the song Nebula. He had a recreation of the artwork that's the CD. I noticed he had his 4444 logo on there
Yeah, and
as
he's got
well.
his
I
wolf
thought
on
that was
there as well.
interesting. Yeah, it was his wolf. And then he had song lyrics. I couldn't see a close enough image, but I saw some of the lyrics enough that I think they're snippets of multiple songs. Like, so maybe it's his
Yeah.
favorite lyric
I think
from,
they
like,
are
each of the
individual.
tracks.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I think the highlight lines, yeah.
Yeah.
The stuff that means the most
And
to
then
him,
on the
shall we say.
side yeah. Then on the side, he has "I Rose You" and "We Go as One," and so it sounds like
Yeah.
he's gonna, like, hold up his guitar at some point. Ha-Jun's drums were beautifully painted. Beautifully painted.
They're very stylistically painted.
Yeah, I loved them. Very colorful. It has the Rose logo, world. I loved that. Jay's bass was more simplistic. Like he just kind of had the stars, but then he had two little people like walking hand in hand. So, and a heart, I think.
Yeah.
Um, I think Dojun's guitar was also really, really beautifully done. My favorite part was the back that has world and
I
then this
like the fact that he'd done the
rainbow,
back of
the
the neck,
neck.
actually. Yeah, I quite like that.
Yeah.
I mean, you can't do the fretboard as such because if you start messing around with the fretboard, you then end up in a position where actually you struggle with the strings because it starts to interfere with grip and with slip and everything else. So you don't want to do that. I mean, bearing in mind you spend most of your time once you've taken your strings off, you actually wax the fretboard so you get movement in it. So you're not going to put something that's going to cause a level of friction on there.
Then we peeped out, listeners, the painted box, and this is the one that Ha-Jun uses when they always do acoustic. So you and I were guessing. So I'm wondering if maybe not the whole concert, but there's gonna
I
be a song
I
or
think they'll I
a
think
couple
there'll
of
be
songs they're
I
gonna
think there'll be
do.
there'll be 2 or 3 songs that they'll do as an acoustic set in the middle of it, I would have thought.
Yeah, but I'm wondering if they're gonna use these instruments because the way
Mm,
Sammy talked about ending like, it sounds like "Oh" will be probably the last song of the show and how he talked about, like, "Remember how we ended Wonder and we did this, and, like, we now hold up our guitars, we'll do this." So I'm kinda
you know
wondering if
what
they
though?
might use them for one song during the
Do you
show,
know what?
but
I
we'll
mean,
see.
normally they kinda end their shows on a high. Oh, kinda would leave it on a low. It it
Yeah,
would
but
be
I
a
kinda
bit
think
flat as
this
an
is
ending.
I haven't
So
heard the whole song of "Oh,"
well, that's what I
so
was saying that but that
I'm
yeah, I
not
mean
sure.
yeah, but I mean, that's what I was saying to you earlier on. I mean, I've kind of reserved judgment on what I think of the songs until I've heard them in their entirety. But at the moment, oh, how do I say this? I can't feel the drive in them yet. Tomorrow's got drive. Tomorrow's got lots of drive, and I can see tomorrow
Mhm.
probably being one of the earlier songs in the set. But the others don't have that impulse, that push. And I'm not saying that they've got to be loud, raucous rock songs. Even ballads have push. They have
Mhm.
that push and pull. You need push and pull to create a song. So, and I think just the little clips that we've had so far don't necessarily show the totality of the songs.
Oh,
Um,
true. For
yeah.
sure.
So I kind of hope that
Mhm.
sort of builds to something bigger, shall we say? And I don't mean like rousing or
Yeah.
anything, but I think it needs that
Yeah.
choral input at the end to make it bigger.
Yeah. I guess we'll just see maybe they'll only use these instruments for those TikToks, and then they're doing some sort of live,
Yeah, yeah.
video. I think Sammy posted they look like they
He
were out in the
posted.
woods, so
Yeah,
they're
he
probably filming
posted.
that.
I think they're doing something very similar to sort of Sour, and I think that's what the painted
Mhm.
instruments were for. I mean, I mean, looking at the instruments that they've used, they're not the same caliber instruments that they generally play with. They're like the actual pickups and all of those type of things aren't the same level as what they normally have on their instruments. And musicians tend to keep they'll change the style of the guitar, but things like pickups and pops and all those type of things, you tend to go for the same thing. So to me, it kind of looks like they're instruments that were bought for a video and for promo work, not necessarily for live work. Might be
Yeah, I
wrong.
mean, I don't think they're rolling Sorry the Rose in the kinda dough that you get a several $1,000 guitar and paint it. So, I'm just
No,
saying, like, I don't
God, no.
I
No.
don't think they're painting expensive instruments, so yeah.
Right. So
Yeah.
let me give you a rough idea. So just a normal Fender Telecaster, that type of thing, you're looking at a couple of grand. Now that's just in run of the mill generic. When you get onto the custom type, which is what Sam uses, ooh, Stick a couple more thousand plus on it, and then we're in the sort of same ballpark where you should be. You're not going to paint one of those with white emulsion and then start colouring it in. I mean, you
Yeah.
might
Oh,
do
yeah.
if you're strange, but I don't think it is. I think they've got cheaper instruments and painted them like they did in the days of Sour, and we know what happened to them. They ended up spinning them around on an empty road, nearly knocking each other out.
Oh god, we'll see what debauchery they'll get into with these. But I just like kind of this aesthetic, that they're doing throughout this world era. I'm really enjoying it. All right, then we got some good spoiler Sammy with some lyrics. So he even showed us the lyric book and we got to see the lyrics to Nevermind.
Oh
We
God,
got to
try.
see on his phone.
Right, may I? Can I just point something out? Sammy, darling, your
Yeah.
handwriting. Be Jesus.
Oh, his little handwriting. You know? What do you think about his handwriting?
Some of it's
I didn't
hard
think it was
work.
bad.
It's not great. But then again, I
Oh,
mean,
I didn't think it was bad.
obviously he's been writing in Korean for years, so I mean, it will affect your sort of English cursive handwriting. I mean, I can't say anything. I mean, my notes in front of me look like I'm writing a prescription for somebody, so I'm sure
I
if you
didn't
took
think
it to
his
the
handwriting
hospital,
was
you could
that
get
bad.
tramadol.
I would say, we won't go into the lyrics. I think again, like, let's save that in terms of, like, our deep dive, but it was just kind of fun. They definitely did a lot of different, spoilers, um, throughout, so that was always good. And then Sammy came out and did typical Sammy, where he just out of nowhere admitted that he made a bunch of TikToks private. And then Dojun comes in like Leo and says, "Oh, it's confession time, huh?"
Oh, I
So,
love
I
Doja.
feel like you and I have said this, and we just, said this earlier about, them rebranding, and I mean, he kinda said he felt like he did it because they look super young, and it's just not really, like, reflective of who they are, but I think it's all going into them wanting to kind of reshift their brand. What
Yeah,
is
I
your
mean,
thought on that?
yeah. I mean, one of the things you've got to bear in mind is, though, I mean, there are people that actually just know them for the TikToks. They don't even know that they're a band.
Yeah.
There's just these funny Korean guys that make funny videos, and they have no concept whatsoever of the sort of music that's playing in the background is actually theirs. I get it. It goes back to this rebranding. I mean, it's kind of a shame in a way because actually, yes, they are the kind of sort of hiding part of the personality by doing that because we all know that they're a bunch of nerdy geeks and we also know that they are exceptionally serious musicians that care a lot about what they do and everything else. But at this point in time, it's kind of almost like they've decided they want to grow up a little bit. And I
Yeah.
think that's come with this
Mhm.
idea of rebranding.
I can kinda see what you're saying, but also then in a way, it's like, we were it was interesting because I do agree, I think it shows that fun part of their personality,
Yeah.
which we have loved that photosynthesis does because it is comedic and, so it is kinda interesting that they decided to hide them for now. I mean, maybe they'll bring them back, but,
Oh, they'll
um,
sneak back in at some
yeah.
point, but and I mean, they're out there anyway. I mean, if you want to view them, you can view them. I mean, they've all been, reposted a million times anyway on every single social media
Mm.
platform. It's not like they don't exist. They're not gone for good. If you want to watch them, you can watch them. You can see them, but I think that's what it is. I think it's a conscious decision for rebranding, and I can't blame them for that because actually giving yourself an identity and telling a story of who you are and what you're trying to achieve is a hard thing to do. And they're literally shedding the previous skin of what they were given. I think Jewel was kind of them. it was kind of them trying to break out. It was them trying to push out of this sort of K-idol, sort of soft indie rock moniker that they'd been given to sell to the estrogen market. And that was them trying to push out. And I think it did to a certain extent. But I think they've decided actually we need to get rid of the sort of cutesy kawaii thing as well.
Yeah.
And we're going to be a bit, as I said to you, raw, pop punk. We're going to try and be a bit more punk. We're going to try and be a bit more manly. Weird way of putting it.
Yeah.
I mean, they're manly enough. They're in the 30s and
Right.
they're
Yeah.
trying to show that. And every band does it. Most bands do it every album. But they've really not had a chance to do it. They've kind of been stuck with it. In fact, the only one out of them that's actually been allowed to evolve is Woo-sung. With his solo work, he's
Mhm.
been allowed to evolve because he's allowed himself to evolve, whereas the band hasn't been able to. And I think that's possibly
Mhm.
why the last album, I'm going to say shelved, I'm not going to say scrapped, shelved.
Yeah.
And this album has come in its place because I think they've sort of, this album's kind of a line in the sand, but it feels a little bit like a sort of like, okay, this is a new chapter. This is a new
Yeah.
book of a trilogy. We're on the second book of the trilogy. We've started the hero's journey and now we're into the plot twists. Not
Yeah.
until I read too
I
many
can see
books, can you?
that.
Yeah.
I can definitely see that, and it's interesting that you talk about Usang really evolving. We're gonna dig into that when we go
Yeah.
into his album. I guess for the Rose, like I think it's great. I think they need to continue to evolve. I think as we've said, it's only gonna open up more of an audience, a broader audience. Back to the live, one of the things I kind of peeped out too, and I just always like to connect it back to little things that we've said, but Sammy gave us a little peek at he had this camera. So I'm surmising it might be part of the gift and like the
I
VIP
think, yeah, I
packages that
think
you're
it's
gonna
like,
get at the
is it the
show.
Stargazer kit?
What I loved about it, Kelly, was if you notice the type of camera it was an old school 90s like camera. And remember when we talked about that image, we talked about the coloring the image looked
Yes.
vintage, like what you would take in that old school camera. And we had that whole
Well, can
conversation about the camera.
I'll just pull you back to a conversation he had with Jack while they were out on tour, and I can't remember which part of the tour it was, but it was actually on one of the recap videos. And Sammy's talking
Mhm.
to Jack about what video camera it was he was using and was it vintage and how cool it was. And if you actually look what Jack
Yeah.
was using and then actually what they're using to film photosynthesis on.
Yeah.
So the seeds for all of this have
Yeah,
been
that's
planted
true.
quite a while ago.
Yeah, that's very true. I totally remember that content that you're talking about. So yeah, I just thought that was kind of cool because you and I totally recognized from the image that coloring and
Mm,
um they're definitely leaning back into kind of this 90s vintage style. Then I have to call Woo-sung out for this. The little dance move he previewed that apparently in the lyrics of Ticket to the Sky, he wants this dance, which like, come on, Sammy, it's totally a horrible take on the Kid and Play. Like, it's like the
yeah.
an awful version of that. It's like, what? Like,
You
what?
know what it reminded
Like,
me of?
no.
I mean, we used to have to do like barn dancing at school when it was raining when I was at junior school. And it kind of reminded me of that. And I was like,
Yes.
no, no, can we not?
No.
No.
Oh my god, we called it in America, you called it barn dancing, we called it square dancing, and I
Yeah.
remember doing it in elementary school, it was like, "Bow to your partner. Bow to
No, we
your
didn't used to
corner." Do
do
you remember
that.
that?
Yeah, no, ours weirdly enough had sort of like some weird pagan ritual thing in the middle. I don't know what it is. Come on, please bear in mind we're in May, so we've just had May Day, and we have things like the maypole that the
Mm.
virgins dance around and everything else. So kind of get stuck into all that weird thing. I think they were just training the kids in case they needed a sacrifice at some
Yeah, crazy. But back to his, like, dance, I was like, "Oh, Sammy, no. Please don't no. No one wants to pull out that
No,
weird kid and play." Even Leo was like, "What am I doing here?" No,
it's okay.
no.
We'll go along with you for now because 'cause it'll keep you quiet and entertained.
I know, right, right, right. But anyway, I enjoyed the live. They kind of wrapped it up with pulling in the fans, which is always I don't know, Kelly, it's always a little bit awkward to me as a I don't
So
know why I
awkward.
find it awkward to watch these people come
So
on,
awkward.
like, the live. Bless her heart. She's like, "Do you remember me? I gave you a bracelet." He's like, "I think I might need a little more detail." Does she think that there's only been one person in his entire career, her, that's ever given him a bracelet at a
Possibly.
show? It just was like he's just so sweet though, like, I just have to think in his mind, he's probably like, "Is this for real?" But he's so sweet because he's always like, "Oh, can you tell me more?"
I mean, to be
Like, "I remember
perfectly honest,
everybody."
I mean, the guys see that many faces
Oh
all the
my
time.
gosh,
They're
yes.
not gonna remember anyone. I'm not even gonna say a few faces. They're not gonna remember anyone at all,
Of
because they've seen that
course,
many
like, how I
people.
just find it so interesting that people would actually expect, like, yeah, they do remember, but he is so sweet and so kind, like, he played it off well. Right, then, Kelly, shit hit the fan.
Oh,
So, for whatever reason, after that live, I still don't quite understand why, but Sammy went on X. I mean, the man has not been on social media in 8 months,
and it's
and
the
he
worst
went on
place to go at
X.
the best of times.
It's a cesspool. I was gonna say, X is a cesspool.
I loved Twitter when it first started. It was great. It was just that nice little hub, and then it just started to creep in, and it just became this sort of snowballing thing of "Ugh." And then of course
Yeah,
the how should I put it politely? The takeover happened
yeah,
and it went even more. Um, which was the point I closed my private account. And I thought I can't, yeah, I'm not dealing with this anymore.
yeah.
Um, but yeah, oof, yeah,
So listeners kind of and I know there were a lot, so we'll give you kind of the highlights. If you do wanna read his actual responses, you can go to his account and go to the replies section and read through his replies to various I'll be honest, it was hard to keep up with. Um, I felt bad for him. It was the middle of the night for this man.
he obviously didn't sleep because he found it
He
imperative
did not
that
sleep.
he was
No.
going to reply to everybody that he possibly could reply to.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah, and it was rough. So, if you haven't, you can read it. If you don't wanna read it, we'll try to give you kind of a high level synopsis. I think fans have been feeling and we've been addressing it in almost every episode, Kelly,
yes,
giving our perspective and trying to give more information and context as we always try to do. But we know there are group not all fans, and so I wanna also say to all of our listeners, the comments that were on X are not indicative of how all fans feel.
yes,
And they might be a small group of people, but again, these negative voices can sometimes seem very loud. I think we said that in a previous
yes,
episode.
very much so.
Um, yeah, and fans have been voicing their concerns about ticket prices,
Yes,
about small venues,
yes,
about, dynamic pricing through
Mhm.
Ticketmaster with the tickets, cost of the VIP tickets, the lack of engagement and lack of the Rose members coming on the Rosarium and talking with fans and engaging with fans.
And you know what, Anne?
Um,
They are all exceptionally legitimate points.
yeah.
The tickets are very highly priced in places, obviously exacerbated by the dynamic pricing model that is in place with Ticketmaster and AXS for when items start to move. I mean, I have an understanding as to why VIP has been dealt with the way that it has. But again, VIP is more expensive and doesn't seem to cover the same amount of items that you would have previously received. Um, it seems to be a little less for the same amount of money, shall we say. I completely and utterly understand why fans have felt a little cold shouldered. I want to try and remain as impartial as I possibly can. I'm going to sit on the fence, even if it chafes. Um,
Mhm.
I understand why people have been upset. And a lot of people have taken to Twitter and also the Rosarium as well, and they have voiced their concerns. Now, those concerns haven't been replied to. And those concerns weren't replied to when they have contacted Transparent Arts. And they would have expected to have been replied to by Transparent Arts as per previous emails may have been. But obviously, they didn't get a reply. This has snowballed and it has caused people to do one of two things, as what always happens when they feel like they're ignored. They either go very quiet and insular and kind of switch off. And we've seen that with fan engagement because some of the fans have switched off. And then you get the other side of it. And may I please note that this is a minority who have got louder and louder and louder. I understand why they have got louder. I understand why they felt as though their voices weren't being heard. But at some point, I kind of hoped that common sense may have prevailed. It kind of hasn't. It kept sort of snowballing. And sometimes I think you have to bear in mind that if you keep doing the same thing over and over again and expecting the same results, there's a word for that. That's lunacy. If it doesn't work one way, you change tact and you go another way. So that's me sort of, in a nutshell, sort of explaining as to why the fans would have been upset. So if you want to carry on, Anne, sorry for going off on a tangent.
No, I agree with you, and I think my perspective is similar to yours. I think the the concerns of the fans are valid.
Mhm. Very
I
definitely.
This is my opinion. I think, and I'm not putting this on the Rose. I put this on what should be whatever level of support they have in
Yes,
services related to PR. The
exactly. So
second that sort of negative concern came out, I would have expected that their PR support saw that, brought that to the attention of the band,
yeah,
talk through it, and talk through
I
a strategy to address it.
right, okay. I need to explain to people how PR works. When you take on a PR company, you pay per press release. So the guys will have paid for a press release regarding this upcoming EP. Anything else that they require, they have to subsequently pay another fee for a press release. They don't have an in house PR agent, they have an external PR agent. And if you are an independent, that is how it works. You use an external PR company. If you are a record label, you have a PR department and they deal with it. That's literally their job. And normally attached to the PR department is the legal department because they are tied hand in hand. If you are independent, it is a separate thing that you pay separately for. And trust me, PR agencies are not cheap. I mean, for essentially
Mm.
what is a piece of paper with a photograph at the top of it, what's happening and where you can get it and what the date is, it's a hell of a lot of money. So to assume that a PR agent was going to suddenly jump on whatever issue there was and say, "Oh, there's an issue. Let's get this out and get it out as a physical announcement." They're not going to do because the guys don't have that level of machinery underneath them.
Mm.
So that I mean, that's something you've got to understand about independents and PR companies. They're 2 separate
So it
things,
kinda
and it's a
goes back.
symbiotic relationship.
Yeah, I guess it goes back to the last episode where you were talking about what it means to be an independent
Correct. Yeah,
and so forth.
exactly.
So, if they and I think then if they don't have that support, and then as through Sammy shared very candidly throughout his tweets, he has really been off the grid. I think
Yeah.
for what I surmised and read between the lines as maybe some mental health reasons, I think he needed a break. He needed to separate
Yeah,
himself. And so if the rest of the guys have too,
yeah.
then who was seeing this? No one was seeing this. And
No.
unfortunately, nobody then could bring it to their attention until it snowballed and, he decided for, again, whatever reason in the middle of the night to go on X, and he was probably
Because
horrified, I could
yeah,
just
because
imagine, by everything that he was reading.
to Sam's strength and to his detriment, he actually gives a shit. At the end of the day, this is his
Oh,
company,
yeah.
this is his livelihood. This is his dream, and he wants to know what best to do to see this vision go forward. It's how can I improve it? But one thing I want people to kind of understand, a lot of the things that have failed them aren't them. It's the support mechanism
Yeah.
underneath them that has failed. It's a little bit like getting in a taxi and driving along and the taxi breaking down. So you're going to moan at the driver because the taxi's broken down and you can't get to where you're going. But then the taxi driver turns around and says, "But I had the car serviced yesterday by a
Mhm.
mechanic." The taxi driver's not a mechanic. The mechanic did the job, and the taxi driver doesn't know
Yeah.
what the mechanic did. They're two different roles to make sure that that car moves forward with you in it. And I think that's what people need
Yeah.
to understand. It's two different mechanisms. And the guys are I mean,
Yeah.
literally, the guys are the icing on the cake. They're not the cake, they're literally the icing on top and the candles. There's all this filling
Yeah.
underneath, and they don't have necessarily the control underneath that.
Actually, I think that's a great analogy, and I feel like, again, we kind of tried to reinforce that through several of our previous episodes
Yeah.
where I did say before that I felt like the anger that was out there was being misdirected and people were
Yes.
directing it to the rose when they really needed to be directing it kind of in other places. I think some of the tweets had very blunt tone,
Yeah.
and that's the thing with tweets and with writing, you can't tell someone's true intention, and so I think some of
Yes.
the people that were commenting with him did not have any malice intention. They were really just trying to give him feedback, but I think some of the other comments had some malice,
Yeah.
sound to them. Maybe I can't say what their intention was because I don't know them, but some of them came off sounding very, very harsh. But I will say again, I always say how much I respect Woo-sung, like, the level of professionalism, that he handled it. He never got emotional. He was open, honest, he listened, and he wanted that's why you just said he literally stayed up all night when
Yeah.
the man had a 7 a.m. schedule to film something in order to
Yeah.
make sure he could address as many of the concerns of Black roses as possible, and I just think that speaks to his character,
Yes,
and as you
definitely.
said, how much he truly cares about the fans, about the rose, about his business, about his music. for
Yeah.
sure.
I don't like what has come out of this. I mean, there seems to have been some weird form of bloody line drawn. This is my viewpoint, and this is my viewpoint, and it's like everybody's got an opinion. Like everybody's got a fucking arsehole. At the end of the day, we know there were issues. He's now aware of the issues. There probably won't be these issues going forward. They're going to try and rectify these issues, but they can't do anything about it
Mhm.
now. Thank you, all the Black Roses that are out there, for generally speaking, if you've asked a question, you've asked a question with civility. Please
Mhm.
remember that if you call somebody out and use a name against that person, it is defamation of character. Please bear that in mind. If a
Mhm.
person has done something, fair enough. But if you did not like their answer, you can't go back and say it's X, Y, and Z. Um, I think, no disrespect to Sammy, I think there was a little bit of naivety in going in and engaging the way that he did. I understand why he did. It
Mhm.
came from a place of passion and wanting to sort out the issues. I get that. I would have probably done the same. And thankfully, he had the common sense to go, actually, do you know what? Let's pull this into one place. I'm just going to get you to ask me questions here. And he sat and answered them all night. Obviously, collapsed for about 30 minutes and then got back on it in the morning. I mean, how many people would do that? There's
Oh.
very, very few that would have done that. I think it would have probably been better in hindsight, because obviously hindsight's always a better thing to look at, for him to have stepped away, written down all of the sort of issues, and then come back with an open letter to the audience, whether that's an open tweet or an open letter, or whether he'd got got it to come out via transparent arts or whatever else. But at the time, I think he was so impassioned that he wanted to
Oh,
get it
yeah.
off his chest and try and
Yeah.
understand why people were feeling the way that they were, and I think he tried his best to answer in a very vulnerable way.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I think there were some things I wanted to honestly talk about. If you read between the lines, listeners, and some of the things that he said, I mean, I'll be honest, listeners, Kelly and I have had some candid conversations and we haven't felt comfortable saying publicly on the podcast. Um, but I don't know. I'm sorry. If you if you are a fan and you haven't read between the lines of the things that have been going on,
Yeah.
you need to wake up and get your
Yeah.
head out of your ass,
Yes,
because
definitely.
there is a reason why they have been offline. We have
Yes.
said they've been working hard, and yes, they've been working hard, but also they have had no break since Heal.
I can
They have
honestly,
been going and
yeah,
going and going.
this is 4 years, 4.5 years, and
Yeah, and
we're in
there's a
burnout territory. The
yes,
the
that's what I was gonna
guys
say.
are burnt out.
They are burnt out. Yes, and I think things that we knew in our gut, he said not blatantly, but he kinda said little drips throughout a lot of his different responses. Um, and I think, again, we as fans, we need to give them time. That
Yeah,
we need to respect their boundaries and their ability to step back and focus on their music and focus
yeah.
on there's obviously other business things happening behind the scenes.
Well, I mean,
There's a lot of business things happening
it's
behind the
like as I said
scenes.
to you, and I mean this. If you listen to what I said in the last episode, and I was talking about deals and record labels and all of those type of things,
Mhm.
these aren't indefinite things. You have to re-sign them every cycle. So you might sign up for a couple of
Yep.
albums and everything else. The guys will have had to re-sign things like distribution deals, management deals. All these things will have had to be re-signed. All of these things include legal. As soon as you include legal, you can add months into it. So, I mean, they're going to have been waiting for these things to tick over, which will have pushed things back because you can't put things in place until, the ink is dried on the contract as such.
Mhm.
So, I mean, you've got that part to take on board. You've also got the fact that it's very obvious that they were sort of reevaluating themselves and what works for
Yeah.
them and who they are.
Mhm.
And that comes with 4
Mhm.
years of recording and relentless touring, and burnout is horrendous. Anybody who has ever suffered with burnout will be able to tell you it is the most mentally draining thing in the world. You don't know who you are anymore. It's bad enough for somebody who burns out working in an office, but if you take that and you've been living in a suitcase and literally you wake up each day and you're in a different city, and the only thing that actually has any semblance of normality to you is your suitcase,
Mhm.
you're going to go crazy. I mean, this is why, and I hate to say it, this is why you get the old stories of rock and roll and drugs, because that is mentally how some of them had to cope. You end up with burnout, you
Yeah.
end up with people falling into depression and ill health. Relationships break down because they can't get back to any form of normality when they get there. I mean, I know musicians who go on tour and they're gone for 2 years, and they come home and their kids have grown up. They don't know
Yeah.
who this bloke is that's just walked through the door. It's like, they run to the mum and it's like, I don't know, who's this man? And it's like, oh, it's the guy
Mhm.
that reads you a story every night when you go to bed. And it's like, oh, it's the voice I know, but I don't know what he looks like or what he smells like, or the things that you take for granted for your parents. And that
Mhm.
has psychological effects on you. I mean, you come home after 3 years of touring and you see how your parents have changed. The guys of that age, their parents are going to start changing. We're all going through this. You start to see your parents getting into their
Yeah.
older age, and that is shocking. All these things are going to have a mental effect on them. You've got to bear in mind as well that the guys have been very honest about this in the past. Jay has freely admitted that he has struggled with his mental health. You don't
Yeah, and I
snap
mean,
out of a
we also just saw in episode 2 in the Saju reading that
Hmm,
he obviously has been really weighing on who he is. Where's he
exactly. And I mean,
going?
they're
What does
that
he really
age.
want?
I don't want to say it's
Mhm.
a midlife crisis,
Yeah.
but generally speaking, most blokes when they hit their early 30s have a midlife crisis. And they do again when they get to
Yeah.
about 50 something. And I have a theory, when a bloke gets to 50, they need a hobby or a shed, or both. And I will
Yeah.
stand by
Right.
that. But they all guys, when they get to sort of like early 30s, sort of like have a crisis of self. And I think that's probably
Yeah. Yeah.
where the guys are now, to be honest. And I mean,
I think there's a line he said in a tweet that I'm gonna quote because I think it goes into what we're talking about here. He says, "I think we were all just running to an unknown destination without looking back."
yes. And this is what this album is. This
If
album is looking back.
Yeah, I'm harking back to what we've seen in episode 4 of Photosynthesis, where they were so nostalgic and sitting around that table at the end and drinking and eating and having, community there, and Dojun's kinda saying, "We don't know, where we're ultimately going to go," and I think you're right. I think they needed to take a pause. I think they needed to figure out who they want to be as a band, who they
Mm,
might want to be as individuals,
yeah.
um, where they wanna take their sound, where do they want to go, this rebranding that we have been continually talking about, and doing it in a way in which, yeah, like, they're just kinda unplugging themselves, from everything. But I will say this, I mean, I don't know. This upset me a little bit or annoyed me. Maybe that's a better word. Where some of these fans were making it sound like nobody's ever on the Rosarium, and I'm like, where have you been? Because Hajun and Jaehyun have been constantly coming in and making little posts and
Yep,
various live streams throughout November and December,
yep,
and it's just like, so just because it's an I love Sammy, but just because it's not him, it doesn't matter? Like,
yeah.
that
Which I
annoyed me.
find kinda gross in a way. I find it
Yeah, like,
parasocial.
the
Strangely enough, I sent you, a tweet earlier. This isn't just in the sort of K-rock, K-pop world. This seems to be more of an issue in music in general. So there was a conversation
mm,
about a band called Bad Omens, who are a huge metal band, and they're sort of one of those bands that sort of span the entire gamut of the metal world. And they have a song called Social Suicide, and they changed the lyrics in Chicago to parasocial suicide because of
wow.
the effects that they've been feeling from their fans. Now, I don't know how
Mhm.
many people out there have listened to Sleep Token. I'm a huge advocate of Sleep Token. They're a great band, and they have also hit out at their fans. But you see, this is the difference. Metal and rock music doesn't give a damn. They will tell you if you are overstepping the line. It's like, you're allowed to. You're rock stars. Hold on a minute. You've overstepped the line, mate. Back up. Obviously, the
Mhm.
guys are kind of sort of stuck in this kind of soft boy K-pop idol image. And also, they're nice guys as well. So they're not going to want to go back up. And it's I find it kind of a bit weird actually what's sort of happening. And I must admit, sort of like as a musician, having seen what Sammy has been dealing with over the weekend, I sort of thought to myself, I'm like, I don't know if I want to deal with this.
I know it's
It actually
probably
upset
yeah,
me on a personal level because I'm thinking, I'm just embarking on my journey. I know people aren't
yeah.
gonna like me. I mean, I'm well aware of that. I mean, I it's just
Mhm.
me. I don't really care about that side of it. But to think that you're being called out about certain things and being called certain things, and it's a bit like, do I really want to
Yeah.
do this? All I want to do is kind of sort of make my art and put it out there, and then hopefully some people might connect with it.
I thought it was really brave of him back in, October of last year when he did the live stream on YouTube,
Yes,
and someone asked that question that, uh, I can't even remember how that question was worded, but it led him to talk about the parasocial relationship, and he
yes,
was very honest in calling
he
out that
was.
bad behavior, and
Yeah,
yeah, and you're right, in the K-pop sphere, it's all about fan service, and the fans, in a lot of ways, feel a level of ownership, an
yes, definitely.
entitlement
Yeah.
of the artists, and, I just think in another way, another reason for the Rose to just get out of that sphere,
Yeah, yeah,
get out of that
because
because that
at
is
least if you're
not
just an
it's
indie
not
band or a
healthy.
rock band, you can say, "Well, hold your horses, mate. Let's not do this." Um,
Yeah, yeah,
so reading some
but
of the other stuff as
mhm.
well, so it's like to move it on from sort of like the backwards and forwards of the fan interaction and the musician, to answer some of the questions that were put towards him. And I mean, people were asking about dynamic pricing. And bless him, he came back and went, I don't really know what dynamic pricing is. And I've seen people go, how the hell can he not know what dynamic pricing is? Now, I will stand up for him on this one. I am going to get off the fence. I'm going to stand on the Kim side of the fence for this one. I will I will stand up for him. This one, you've got to bear something in mind. Dynamic pricing is something that is done by the ticket agencies, and the only people that, generally speaking, will actually see any part of the contract that agrees this will be their actual promoter. And it will be their promoter that signed this and agreed this. This was something that very few artists knew about up until last year. And it was, God bless them, The Cure. And Robert Smith, who is a stickler for details, he got hold of one of the contracts and he noticed it was this fixture in there for dynamic pricing. And he was like, hold on a minute, what the hell's this? He kicked off about it and managed to get the dynamic pricing stopped. But before that, there wasn't even a clause in the contract to say that you could cancel this dynamic pricing. It was literally just a ticket agency thing. This is being looked at in the UK. This is actually going in front of the government to see whether or not it's lawful. Ticketmaster and the companies that deal with this need to stand accountable for what they're doing, because they are price fixing. You can't price fix. I mean, this has happened with football as well. And actually, I hate to say it, I think it's the football in the UK that's actually kicked it over the line, no pun intended. But I think that's what's really pushed the argument that there is an issue, because heaven forbid that we ever have an issue with football over here, we'll have riots in the street. But for Sammy to say he doesn't know about it, I'm gonna stand in front of the bullet for this one for him. He won't know about it. And do you know why he won't know about it? Because musicians do not buy tickets to see shows. They
Right,
get guest
right.
lists for things.
I'm sorry, but I don't see him getting his presale code and getting in the queue for Epic High to get
No,
that ticket. I don't think that's what he did. Or
no,
ATs.
no,
I don't think he's
no,
battling the
no.
ATs to get
No,
that ticket.
exactly. That was literally a phone call with Tableau, and Tableau going, "You're on the guest list for Thursday night." And do you know why I know this?
Yeah.
Because it was my bloody job at the promoters to do guest list. And I
Yeah.
will
Yeah.
freely admit now that, other than a few bands, and the Rose being one of them, I don't pay for a lot of shows because I still get guest lists.
I mean, I said that okay, so we said all of this in a previous episode when we talked about the price of a tour. We broke down kind of the dynamic pricing and said at that time it's on the promoter. And I said this, I don't have connections like you and Sammy. I'm a lowly just normal fan. I go to a shit ton of concerts,
Yeah,
and I said this in the last episode. This is the price of a concert.
yeah,
Whether
it
you
is.
think, fan, that's fair or not, and it's sad. If you don't have a lot of money, you probably can't go see these bigger, groups, live music. But that's the reality now until something can happen, but it's not on the artist, and like you said, it's logical that he didn't know. But now I'm sorry, okay, I'm sorry. I'm getting this, like, lovely mental picture, though, of him in the queue, because if you've ever had that experience where you're, like, in the fan queue and you're just like, "Oh my god, here I am. I'm number 746." I could see him on his laptop, like, getting, like, super pumped, being like,
I
"God
can
damn it,
tell.
I had it in my cart and now some other person got it." Like,
I
I
can
need that. I
guarantee
need that
you
mental
now.
image.
I bet you anything he has been on and tried to buy tickets, or at least do the process to see what actually happens. I can guarantee you he's done it to see how the
Oh,
process
no, no.
works.
Oh, no, sorry, Sammy, you missed your chance. You gotta get it in presale. That's the real jungle.
Hey,
You go on now, that's just,
you
oh, you
don't
get
know,
on,
you
you can
don't
pick
know.
whatever
He might
seat.
have tried to get Blackpink tickets.
He needs to get on during, like, the real fan experience when we're all coming on there and you're seeing what number you are in the queue and you're just like, "Refresh, refresh, refresh." Oh, he would get super into it too. I could see him.
Oh yeah, I can.
Yeah.
I
Well,
could actually
I
see it.
also like the
Three
thought.
laptops. Yeah, I can see
Yeah,
it.
I can see him with 3 laptops. I just love this little picture of him, like, trying to beat out other ATs for the best
Yeah,
ATs ticket. Like, that's
my
hysterical to
ticket,
me.
god damn you!
Yeah, goddamn you, I'm getting up front for ATs, man. Yeah.
But I mean, there's also been
Oh my god.
questions about the fact that, I mean, obviously the tour seems to be selling quite well in Europe. Um, the guys haven't sorted the tour out for Asia. There'll be a tour coming for Asia. Don't worry about it. They're obviously hitting festivals at the moment. So, I mean, to say
Yeah.
they're not doing a tour of Asia is kind of, yeah, they're not extensively touring, but they are playing shows in Asia. I mean, you could say they're not playing
Yeah.
any shows in Africa. They're not playing
I mean, we
anything in
said
Australia.
we said that about the Asia the lack like the concern of the lack of Asia shows in a previous episode. I don't know where they're getting this because they have numerous festivals going on
Yeah.
across Asia. So where is this mysterious there is no Asia show?
Appearances as such. So I kind of find that weird.
Yeah.
And then sort of like, and then the other thing that I've seen going around is the fact that some of the shows in America haven't sold particularly well so far. Now, bearing in mind, I mean, we've still got plenty of time. The album hasn't dropped. There's
Yeah.
always a ticket boost anyway when an album drops, or there's any
Yeah.
high level promotion like the documentary and things like that. But going back to what I've said before, there are two issues with this tour. They're touring in the summer in the Northern Hemisphere during holiday season. And two, they're also touring in similar cities and playing similar nights to 80s. And even they haven't sold out. So
Yeah,
that's
we noticed I mean,
something.
obviously we said the Maryland show is literally the same night, but
Mm,
I did a little more digging because I was kind of curious about this, and I told you that I found out that the Stanford show is only
yes.
1 day apart in the
Yeah.
same area. So
Yeah.
you're right, they are competing across and I think there was another one, I feel like it's a Texas venue that is
There's
a
like
day or 2
three, isn't
apart
there?
as
There's
well.
like a crossover, and there's like, and if it's not the same night,
Yeah,
it's the
there were like
day before or day after.
3 yeah. Yeah, and I did out of curiosity, I went on ATs, and yes, they are doing arenas where the Rose are doing, more theater venues, so
But
smaller, but
can
the
I just
arenas aren't sold out.
point something out here though? That's kind of like, sorry guys, put your fingers in your ears if you are a member of the Rose and you're listening. Just put fingers in ears because you're not going to like this bit. But it's a bit
Oh,
like
they don't listen to us,
comparing.
Kelly. Stop
No,
that.
but just in
You know
case,
they
or
don't listen.
anybody who may be listening that may tell them, you put your fingers in your ears as well. It's like comparing a bicycle with a Ferrari by saying that the Rose haven't sold out and the T's haven't sold out. I mean, T's are a much higher level up audience wise than the guys are. And I mean, I know a lot of
Yeah,
people don't want to hear
yeah,
that, but they are. Um, And I mean, we know
yeah,
there's reasons they've
yeah.
picked smaller venues. Like we've said previously, they've obviously picked smaller venues because they want a more intimate feel.
But he said that, which I felt validated because you and I surmised that, but then he reinforced it by what he said in some of his tweets, which I mean, I'm sorry, it makes perfect sense. They're playing this album. It's a stripped back album. I'm with you. I like what you're saying. I think the album's going to come out on May 30th. People are going to be able to hear the music. They're going to fall in love with these songs. Then they're gonna be touring Europe. All the fan cams are gonna come out. All the people are gonna get excited in the United States, and you're gonna see a bigger surge, I think, of people buying tickets,
Yes,
before the shows
I
occur.
agree.
So, yeah. And we've said this before. Black Roses guys are gonna do another leg before the end of 2025. That's our prediction.
Yeah,
They're
I
gonna be
mean,
touring more
it
before
will
the
be.
end of this year.
I will think November, December. There'll be another leg of something, and then rolling into winter, spring 2026. They'll be around the world
Yeah.
too. Definitely. I feel so much for both sides. I feel for the fans. I feel their frustration. And but for Sammy to sit with his back's against the ropes and be slugged, I think, for want of a better term. Good on him for doing it. I respect him for doing it. I don't necessarily I think he could have handled it a slightly different way. I think he needed to sit back, take a breath, have a cup of tea, and then reevaluate how to deal with it. But bless him, he waded in and went in full steam ahead. And I am not saying this as a Kim Delulu or any form of goddamn idol worship or anything else before anybody wants to level that at me. If you listen to this podcast, you know that I call that man left, right, and bloody centre.
I think
If
it's
anybody
creepy when you
knows
give him
me,
compliments.
yeah, exactly. That's the shocking thing. If I give the guy a compliment, you know it's well
I
deserved.
find it creepy. It just
I
creeps
know.
me out.
It's quite funny. I like to throw you a curveball every now and again. But do you know what? I respect him for doing it. And the fact that he was professional, erudite, and eloquent in his response to everybody. Well done, is
Yeah.
all I can say on that
Well
one.
done.
And I kind of
Yeah.
hope that we're just going to get back to normality.
Yeah, I think at this point, the you know, well, I'm with you. Like I felt for him. I felt the pain of him like having to kind of go through that. I think it kind of just needed to be done. At this point, fans, move on or move
Yeah,
away. You know what I'm saying? Like it's
exactly.
either okay, you aired and he's listened and now let it go and stop with the negative comments continually, or decide that you're no longer going to listen to their music and support the Rose, and that is absolutely fine, and go away. But, like,
Yeah,
I just hope that this negativity doesn't continue because at this point now you just look bad as a person that's out
yeah.
there still spewing negative comments. I am a little bit curious if Sammy taken all of this information back to the guys, back to Transparent Arts, whomever else they have partnerships with, that might support them in these sort of things, and if they will release some sort of statement, be it a pre-recorded statement, be it a written open letter. I don't know. What are your thoughts on that?
I mean, to be perfectly honest, if it was me that was doing it, so if I was doing it for somebody that was on my record label or I was doing it for my own band, I would have already done it.
Mm.
It
So
would have
you're
already
kinda
been done
thinking
by now.
if something would have come out, everything went down on what was that, like March 7th, 8th, something like that, it
Yeah,
would have happened by now.
yeah.
Or March, I said March, May, excuse me, May.
Yeah, I mean, personally, I would have tried to. I don't want to say nip it in the bud, but that's what
Mhm.
I would have tried to get out there.
Yeah, I guess as the more days pass since this occurred, you're right, it's probably less likely that something will come out. Join us next time as we dive into the Wolf album. Please rate our podcast and leave us comments about this episode. We'd love to hear your feedback. Follow us on social media on Instagram, TikTok, and X. We are at krock_cast.
Click here to subscribe.
Email us at krock.cast@gmail.com. And don't forget to check out our website, www.krockcast.com. All right, everybody. Thanks so much. See you in the next episode. Bye bye.
Bye.